in the evening glow. When will I ever learn to live in God? When will I ever learn? He gives me everything I need and more. When will I ever learn? You brought it to my attention that everything was made in God. Down through centuries, great writings and paintings, everything is in God. Seen in architecture of great cathedrals, down through the history of time, is and was in the beginning, and evermore shall ever be. When will I ever learn to live in God? When will I ever learn? He gives me everything I need and more. When will I ever learn? Whatever it takes to fulfill His vision, that is the way we must go. I got to do it in my own way. Tear down the old, bring up the new. When will I ever learn to live in God? When will I ever learn? He gives me everything I need and more. When will I ever learn? When will I ever learn to live in God? When will I ever learn? He gives me everything I need and more. When will I ever learn?
Thank you, Val. Thank you, our great music team. That's really wonderful. Love that song. Well, I'm Reverend Michael Perrie. I'm glad to be with you here today. Reverend Maya is out at in California at what's called the January meetings, which is a semi-annual national convention. They do a big one once a year and then a small one twice a year. And so she's out there, and so I'm filling in for her today, and she may have a lot of cleaning up to do after she gets back but to see how it goes today. So the song says, "When will I ever learn?" So let's start at the beginning with unity, with our 5 basic principles. We know there's just one presence and one power in the universe moving through our lives. That's God the good. We know that we are a part of that one presence and that one power, that it lives in us as us. That's our second principle. Our third principle is that we create our own reality with our thoughts. As the thoughts we hold in mind, they create after their kind. Our next principle is about prayer and meditation, that we use prayer and meditation to bring forth wisdom, prosperity, and healing into expression in our lives. And our last principle is that we live these principles, that just knowing them well, that helps, but it doesn't bring them into application, bring them into a newer experience in our lives. So that's our 5 principles. And unity, our unity movement has tended to focus our 5 principles in application in 3 big areas. One is prayer. And as Joy wonderfully mentioned, silent unity, I don't know if you mentioned this part. Not only does silent unity pray 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but silent unity, which originally started as the Society of Silent Help, has been praying 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 126 years. Yeah. Prayer is the heart of what we do. And we also focus on healing and wholeness. And we also focus on prosperity. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We teach prosperity. We're passionate about it, not only in unity, but in the entire New Thought movement. Prosperity, because it opens us up to living in God with greater faith, greater joy, greater peace. We claim prosperous living as the truth, as the actual living truth of our lives. We believe that we are meant to live abundantly. So we're starting out a 7-week prosperity series, and it's created by Reverend David Owen Ritz. It's called Keys for the Kingdom. It's a wonderful, wonderful program that hundreds of people have used to create more prosperity and more abundance in their lives, to create greater success on the paths that they have chosen. And we can begin by listening to the words of Jesus in Luke 12:32, where he's talking to his disciples and actually training them. And he says this, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Do you hear that? It is our Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. Give it to us. Thus, abundance is our spiritual birthright. You and I don't have to figure out how we're going to earn the abundance or otherwise prove to God that we're worthy of it, because it's His pleasure to give us that gift. All we have to do is say yes. Say yes to God. You and I were created in the image and likeness of God, out of God itself. Imago Dei in Latin, the image of God. That's who we truly are. And you and I deserve to live a joyous, abundant, and prosperous life simply because we exist. Simply because we exist. That's our divine birthright. So how do we do that? How do we make that happen? Well, you're in the right place today because unity is just chock full of prosperity teachings. Teachings that help us live our highest potential and that can empower us to enjoy the goodness of life. Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, defined prosperity this way. He said, prosperity is the consciousness of God as abundance everywhere present, our resource unfailing, ready for all to open to it through faith. I remember the first time I read that. Prosperity is consciousness. It's not those little green things of paper we have in our pockets. Prosperity is consciousness. And it's unfailing. I remember years ago when I was in college, and as a fraternity prank, sometimes we would kidnap other members of the fraternity and like take them out, and we're in the middle of the country somewhere and just leave them in the middle of the night and have to find their way back. So that happened to me one time. There was one rule: you couldn't do it to a single person. You had to have at least 2 or 3 people. And so that happened to me, and so I was out just in the middle of nowhere in Upland, Virginia, about 2 in the morning, wandering around to figure out how we're ever going to get back. We had to find a phone because there was, just landline phones back then. So he went up to a house and knocked on the door. It's like 2 in the morning, way out in the country. And these kind people, this wonderful black family, opened the door, let us in, were very nice to us, let us use their phone. And I noticed over in the corner, I looked, there was just a little sign sitting on top of the television, actually. And it said it very simply, Jesus never fails. God is unfailing. And I remember it just touched my heart. I felt safe way out there. These people were taking care of me. And I knew that love was present. David Owen Ritz defines prosperity and abundance as spiritual good in all forms, which includes health, happiness, love, peace, fulfillment, and unlimited possibility. Or more simply said, true abundance is the power to satisfy our needs and to make our dreams come true. And the message of our master teacher, Jesus Christ, was one of unconditional love, personal empowerment, spiritual law, and infinite possibility. Let's listen to his words as he was teaching his disciples in Luke. I'm reading from chapter 12, verse 22. Then he said to his disciples, "Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, about the body, what you will put on. For life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which have neither storehouse nor barn, and God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by worrying, can add 1 hour to his life? And if you are then not able to do even the least, even just that, why are you anxious about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. And if then God so clothed the grass, which today is in the field and tomorrow is thrown in the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith?" That's biblical talk for, come on, knuckleheads, pay attention here. "And do not seek what you should eat or what you should drink, nor have an anxious mind. For all these things the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knows that you need these things. But seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." So we can understand David Ritz when he says, money is a material manifestation of the flow of divine energy. You cannot separate your consciousness from your finances. I remember the first time I read that, I could feel it inside, a little ouch, ooh. First time I read it, it pinched a little bit. I cannot separate my consciousness from my finances. Because, well, I'm a minister, I've got God consciousness, and then there's my finances over here. Oh yeah, I'm kind of thinking it's maybe somehow separate. But it's not. See, the problem is you and I focus on lack and limitation. And by the outworking of our third principles, you and I create circumstances accordingly. We say, for example, I only have $300 in my bank account. I only make $25,000 a year. Our use of the word only clearly reveals a limiting belief. Only is just this much. That's all there is. And thus we experience a limited amount of abundance and prosperity. Now the good news is it's really that simple, and we can apply our third principle to it. And the bad news is those are our limiting beliefs. They belong to us personally, to our consciousness. And so those are ours to change. David says, in the keys to the kingdom, your attitude and beliefs about money hold the true secret to happiness. Our false beliefs about money, generated from our focus on lack and limitation, actually can cause money to become a symbol of lack rather than abundance. Imagine that. But think about that. Is that sometimes pull out some money, this is all I've got. I look at it, I think something that has aspects of lack to it. And so we restrict ourselves by trying to hold on to the abundance we do have, believing that it's limited, rather than trusting in God, rather than saying yes to God, yes to a greater faith, yes to a greater abundance, and belief in God as our ultimate source. The solution to our lack, which is, by the way, self-inflicted, doggone, yes, it is. Sometimes when I read that, I want to, tear that page out of the book. Can I just skip that part? No. But the solution is to stop blocking the natural flow of abundance in our lives and to trust. Trust in the circulation of good, in the circulation of prosperity, in the circulation of money through our lives. And that's just what we're working on with our Dump the Debt campaign. We're working on releasing the past so we can get on with opening ourselves to greater good. David says it this way: the belief in limitation must be healed in order to enjoy true abundance. And in its place, we must build a greater belief in God as the ultimate source of our good and an attitude of joy and freedom for living in the flow of the divine. Here's how Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of my favorite guys, expresses it. Let us take our bloated nothingness out of the path of the divine circuits. Let us unlearn the wisdom of the world. Let us lie low in the Lord's power and learn that truth alone makes rich and great. Take our bloated nothingness out of the path of the divine circuits. The energy flow, the flow of abundance already exists. We just need to move the blocks that we put there out of the way and stop paying attention to, if you will, the things of the world, the wisdom of the world. Let us lie low in the Lord's power. In other words, let us understand the presence and power that is already in us. Lie low. Understand means to stand under, to surrender to, and learn the truth that makes us rich and great. So our work is to say yes to God, to say yes to God. And we do this work by building a prosperity consciousness. And yes, this takes work, mental work, emotional work, spiritual work, and it takes commitment, and it takes personal discipline. There's that word, discipline. One of the best definitions that I like for definitions, actually, is defining discipline this way. It's simply saying, discipline is just remembering what I really want. So now that you're appropriately discouraged about what it's going to take to build a greater prosperity consciousness, let me offer you some encouragement. It just so happens that starting tomorrow night, we're beginning a new 7-week class in the Keys to the Kingdom that's specifically designed to assist in building a prosperity consciousness. And it has been successfully used by hundreds and hundreds of people to do just that. In describing this Keys to the Kingdom course, David says, this course offers a methodology for building a greater awareness of the presence, guidance, and activity of Spirit in your everyday life. So here is a way, a path that you can seek and find a greater awareness of the kingdom of God within. A greater awareness, for that's the only true path whereby all other things of the world will come and be given to you as well. I know you've heard this before, and it's in Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all these things shall be added to you. As David says it in his course, such an awareness is the cornerstone of a true prosperity consciousness, an awareness of the universal flow of energy, an awareness of the inherent existence as children of God and us as part of the divine plan, an awareness of our divine inheritance and that we are partakers of God's endless substance, and that this is the truth of who we are. So now there's one last thing I should point out, and that is that changing our awareness, opening ourselves to a new level of consciousness, it does take commitment, and real action, to begin to consciously change old habits and behaviors and to work on new ones, to build more beneficial beliefs. So why do we need to be committed? Why do we need to take any action? Because positive action actually propels us forward into an experience of living from a higher level of faith. And thus we develop a deeper trust in the abundance of the universe. In doing so, we'll be applying Unity's third principle. By practicing new thoughts and beliefs, we create a new reality for ourselves. And out of this awareness, this new reality, we can come to understand more clearly, as I said earlier in David's words, money is a material manifestation of the flow of divine energy. You cannot separate consciousness from your finances. So I invite you to come with us on this journey, this Keys to the Kingdom series, each Sunday, and especially for our Monday classes. You can sign up right after the service out in the lobby. Come with us on this journey where we'll work to overcome older beliefs and lack and limitation and work together to build a greater awareness of God's presence in every aspect of our lives. Come with us as we support each other in bringing about a greater realization of spirit for each and every one of us. And as we encourage one another to live more freely, to live more abundantly. Now, contrary to what some people may believe, we don't want you to come to class just so you'll give more money to the church. That's not what this is about. And no, when you walk into the door of the class, we're not going to turn you upside down and shake you by your ankles and shake all the money out of your pockets. We're not going to do that. That's not what we're here for, no matter what you may have heard. And if you can't make it tomorrow, it's okay. You can still miss the first class as long as you can sign up and take the rest. That's just fine. David Ritz says, the ultimate purpose of this course and of these teachings is to free us from all worry and doubt about how we shall live freely and abundantly, and to build an unshakable faith and trust in the goodness of life. For with such a faith, we will never be without the things that we need to live a happy and a fulfilling life. So in the words of the master teacher, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaking together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure that you use, it will be measured to you. As we give, we will receive. So I invite you to practice this week, giving of your time, your talent, your treasures, more than you have before. Stretch yourself and watch how your old beliefs will be challenged by your stretching. And open yourself to the experience of a greater flow of the circulation of God's good in your life. For God is a giver. Have you noticed? And we grow closer in our experience to God and more like God by giving. I was talking with Paul, Joey's son, a couple of months ago, and talking about actually how to win the game of life. And I was using the example of a basketball game as a metaphor, and that it's important to know the rules of the game because it's a lot easier to win the game if you really understand how it works. And not following the rules or not paying attention to them just makes the game more difficult and makes life more difficult. And so one of the major rules of life, I was pointing out to him, is as ye sow, so shall ye reap. That you get what you give. More colloquially said, what goes around comes around. In other words, we get what we give. And notice that parallel to our third principle, that our thoughts create our reality? Getting comes from giving.